later really is a luxury. So stop planning or thinking you need to be perfect and overanalyzing it and just do it. Stop saying you're going to start Monday or waiting till January. Just get out and do the thing. Messy action's going to take care of it and you're going to figure it out. Can't wait for a perfect. What is going on, Busy Bariatrics? This episode's going to hit a little different as it's my first recording since losing my dad. I'm going to be talking a bit about everything, but also kind of framing it to explain also how I've been in survival mode and also what you kind of learn from someone like my dad. My dad is not just my dad. He has been a business owner since he's been 18 from my father who owned his own business and has been working in the family business for almost his entire life, over 50 years, now that I do the math. He died incredibly suddenly, so it's still kind of blindsided with this, but I've been getting a lot of questions about, like, who was your father, what happened and everything, so I figured, why don't I make it a little bit of a teachable lesson for everyone, as well as give you an idea of who my dad is, not just as, like, the person who raised me, but also just a really good business mentor and friend. I would go to Eagles games with my dad, on road trips, and I have nothing but the best memories. And I can't say it again. I have no regrets with my relationship with my father. And that's kind of the awesome part of this is, unfortunately, we've had people over to my parents' house and everywhere else. And it's been amazing just because I realized like how many people just were inspired by my dad and an awesome dude. And I figured maybe I could do him a little bit of justice on here and share some of the dozens of stories I've heard from former employees, his friends and family. To give you an idea, like, losing a loved one sucks. There's like no cute spin on it. There's no like analogy or metaphor I could have. I could probably give you some psychological or anthropological ideas around love, loss, and all that stuff. But the human body is also kind of a wild place. As someone who tracks their food, nutrition every day, I will say for the first time in like 5 years, I just didn't care. Like, I was not tracking anything. I've been living on a combination of caffeine, adrenaline, and pure grit to get through everything. But through all this, it really did remind me of something powerfully simple. You do not have to wait for perfect. There is not a right time for anything. And in reality, life is going to continue no matter what's thrown at you. So you just kind of have to do the work. You have to act. You have to adapt. You have to show up and do the best you can, because that's exactly what's going to keep you through the difficult times. So again, like, to give you a little bit of the background of kind of where I was, Thursday the 16th was a very regular day. For those of you who have been following along with my story, I am not back to teaching yet as I tore my bicep and I am working through physical therapy and just healing right now. So I had physical therapy Thursday, and it's been kind of nice being home. I've been sleeping in a little bit regular because I have more time in the day. I've been moving at a slower pace and just really working on like breath work and everything. So woke up leisurely, had like a healthy breakfast, and then had our team content meeting where we've been doing some really awesome things. And if you're checking Kylie and Lisa's Instagram pages, their content's really been coming along nicely with sharing some of the things that have helped me have conversations with clients, but as well be pretty teachable. So go out and check them. But we were reviewing content, having the basic talks. Even earlier in the morning, I was talking with my assistant, Stacey, and I was like, it's kind of a boring day. I got through everything, looked at my check-in list, and was like, meh, I've got a pretty good amount, but I also have Friday fully open. So I was like, I'll just do the check-ins on Friday, and kind of also had like a content high where I batch a lot of my content in advance. So I was like in a mood to do content. So I created like the next 10 days worth of content to make it all work. And in hindsight, it looked pretty genius and it still came out. I got off the call with Lisa and Kylie, and all of a sudden I get a call from my mom that dad collapsed at work. Can you come get her? Scrambled. My mom lives the next town over, so I had to hop over there, grab her, and then get all the way up to where my dad works. And to give you an idea, it's next to impossible to get there quickly. My dad works in Montgomery County. I live in South Jersey. I had to take the Tacony Palmyra and then travel through the Great Northeast. So if you live in the region, you just know it's an impossible task of just lockjam traffic, stop and go. There's no quick way to get there. I did get there in 43 minutes, and Google Maps did say it would take 58, so I was proud of that. But by the time we got there, my father had already passed. Doctors had said he had probably a massive heart attack. My brother works with my father, so he was there when he collapsed, and I'm eternally grateful that my brother started to do CPR. His coworkers jumped in to do it, and he immediately called my mom and started calling me and my other brother, Will, to make sure that we could get here as quickly as possible or sound the alarm. That's where we went into full logistics mode, though, is when I got to the hospital. He looked peaceful. Like, he actually looked really good. He had recently, he had cleanly shaved. His hair was freshly cut. He looked great for someone who had just passed. But we had to go immediately into logistics mode. It's a little tricky with the death of my father because my grandmother is, I want to say 93, 94. I stopped counting after the Reggie White year of 92 because I just know she's in her 90s. We didn't want someone to just randomly call her, so we had to tell my aunt who lives out in Atlantic City, and she drove an hour with her husband so we could gently tell my grandmother. And that's just a difficult call. I had to call my aunt and tell her that her brother had passed, and then start to go into logistics because everyone just started piling into how do we help mode. So I called Kate to go get pizzas because we were probably going to have anywhere from like 20 to 25 people at the house immediately. On the way to get the pizzas, Kate's car broke down and the transmission went on it. So after I got my mom home, some of her girlfriends had already been notified and got there. I had to go scramble to grab the pizzas, grab Kate, put them both in my car, and then I sat with the tow truck until we got it fixed. Kate then went home, got the rest of my pajamas, my laptop, everything that we needed, and I set up base camp. And to give you an idea, like, my parents live 2 towns over, like 1 town over. It's like logistically that close, but I don't sleep at home. Like I was someone who I moved out. April 29th and 30th were the last 2 days in a row I ever slept at home, and then I got my own apartment in Manayunk with 2 of my friends, and I never went back. I slept at home once the night before I got married, and then I haven't really slept there for the last 13 years. But I did the same thing that I would tell my clients to do. When we got home, we got everyone fed and moved everyone out and started to settle in. I pulled out my handy legal notepads and I started to write out what are the things that I can control, what are the things I can't control. And I started to go through a list of what are the things that need to get done for a funeral. And I really started to work on just, okay, what can I do immediately that night? Because I knew I couldn't sleep. And then what can I do tomorrow morning when we wake up? Because unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, when someone goes suddenly, it's so unexpected for everyone around them that the next part that everyone goes into is, how can I help? How can I be around you? And we knew the house was going to get slammed in the best way possible, people coming over. So we wanted to make sure that we had paperware, toilet paper, like all of those logistics. So I immediately started to write a checklist of, here's the things we'd need if we had to entertain people. And it was a pretty good idea because we had close to probably 300 people in the house in that weekend alone by the time everything was said and done by the end of the week. So that was kind of where we went into. As I started to get through, I realized like my dad gave us a lot of really great lessons that were shared, but none other was the idea of like, just do it now. And when I was in middle school, my dad was like really hell-bent of the now is silent. So if you told him like, I'll do it later, or I'll get to it, or like, yeah, okay, like, hey, there's laundry downstairs, you need to bring it up and put it away. And if I was playing video games, he would either stand in front of the TV or he would shut off the video games if he got mad enough. He'd unplug it and lock it in the master bedroom closet, which is where all our stuff went to die. And he would go, Robert, let's make this very clear. And he'd do this thing where, like, if you're looking on YouTube, he'd put like either his ring fingers or his middle fingers and he'd press them into his thumbs and be like, let's be real clear on this. The now is silent. You don't get to do it later. Not in 5 minutes, not in 5 hours, not in 5 days. Do it now. The sooner you get things done, the sooner it gets off your plate and you can get it onto someone else's and not have to worry about it. And that's something that like my dad taught and instilled into us. And it's kind of how I operate as a teacher, as a friend or family member, as a business owner, is if there's anything that I can get done right away, I almost clear that out immediately. So another lesson he taught me was like, don't touch the same piece of paper twice. So if someone gives you a form, look it over, give it the proper intention to make sure that it's good, and then sign it or push it to the person that it needs to get them off your plate. And I do that almost every morning with emails as well. As I open all of them. I do that now. And I see, can I delete this? Do I have to forward this or respond to this, and keep moving? He did the same when it came to just like getting dinner and figuring out who was all coming to dinner. Once he would talk to my mom of what we were having for dinner, the next answer was, okay, how many people do you want? My mom would be like, well, bring everyone. That meant both brothers and his mother. He would start the calls right there. He's like, look, I can't give you a number until I get done all the calls. And he would just run through, are you coming? How many people are coming in your family? And his answer for everything was like, I don't really care if you come or not. I just need to know how many plates to set. And that was something that was like really important, was making sure that you had the right number of things for everything so that you weren't over or under difficultly, but then just be like, look, I don't really care if you come or not. I just need to know so I can put my numbers together. And even when I was calling to inform people of my father's passing, before I'd hang up, I'd be like, look, since I got you and it would save me a call, do you think you're coming to the luncheon? Because we had kind of a perfect storm. He was young, he was beloved, and he's lived his entire life in 3 towns. Born in Camden, raised in Pennsauken, moved to Cherry Hill, where he lived the last 40 years, because it was the house they built when I was a child. But essentially like 3 towns he really lived in. He did like, I think, a year in Mount Laurel with my mom, like when they had gotten married but the house wasn't built. But he doesn't move often, and even then that's like a 4th town over. But he just took everything as like doing it now, and that included difficult conversations. My dad would tell you exactly how he felt, or if something didn't sit right with him, he would voice it almost immediately. And his response was like, look, only one of us is getting angina over this, and it ain't me. For Italians, that's like chest pain. I'm in Italianese, but angina could be anything in Italian culture to the actual chest pain that is angina, which people can have. But in Italians, it could be anything from anxiety, just a pit in your stomach, any like internal feeling would just be labeled as angina. And he never wanted angina. So his whole point was like, look, I'm having this conversation whether you want to have it or not, but I got to speak my piece and move on. So the first lesson he really taught was do it now. The second one that he loved was messy action wins. And the Bob quote was always like, hey, if your mind's made up, there's no use hemming and hawing about it. Start working on it. His idea was like, in chaos, there really is no perfect plan, and life's going to keep going. So there's no point of saying like, when this gets better, I'll do it. His answer was like, look, it's either got to get done or it doesn't have to get done. So do it while it's messy. And that was kind of how he taught us. When I applied to colleges, he kind of was like, look, you already made your mind up of where to go. Start applying and get the paperwork all done and figure out your housing. I'm not taking you to another tour. And I think when I finally told him, like, I had settled on going to LaSalle, he's like, I'm not going to these other schools. If you know where you're going, I'm not wasting my time or yours. Save the admissions people an extra plate of chicken fingers. Because he was assuming that every college tour you went to, they gave you chicken fingers in the lunch cafeteria. So he'd be like, look, save the chicken fingers. Like, you already know you're not going there. Don't humor them. Like, move it on. And even when I pick bids, or if I'm shopping for like mentorships or other programs, once I make the decision, I just very politely call the other people and be like, look, it's nothing personal, but I'm going another direction. I want to make sure that you know that like it's nothing you did. My mind's already set. And that was really how he taught us in operating. The other part was with job selection. Like, if you were in between 2 things, he'd really tell you, like, look, either choose the one that makes you the happiest or the wealthiest. And if you don't know which one will do which, go solely on salary, and you can always back up the truck later because you got to get paid. So that was another way of him just saying, like, look, take messy action, get it done. You're not going to know anything perfect. And it's also because, like, he came from, like, he was already operating a warehouse with his uncle when he graduated high school. So by, like, 19, he had to figure out how to run a pretty successful at the time warehouse and the trucking aspect of it. So he couldn't really wait until he properly knew supply chains or anything else. He had to get in and do it. And did he make mistakes? He'll be the first to tell you, yeah. but he'd learn from it. And his answer for everything was like, look, as long as you just apologize for making the mistake and tell the truth, everything else fixes you. Which comes down to a third system, which was that systems protect you. My dad had a system for everything from running businesses to Saturday bill paying, where he would lay everything out on the kitchen table and get all his bills done. He used to do invoices at our dining room table Thursday nights because he knew my mother wanted it cleared for if we were hosting family on the weekend. So he knew he'd have to set up the computer. And this is like a 1998 computer. This isn't a laptop, people. This is like the padding was already down on the dining room table, and he would install a monitor, a tower. Like, he would install an entire computer together, plug it all in, do invoices, print it to a printer, print everything out, and then he'd break it all down and do invoices. But like, that was the system that worked around the schedule that he had. And it was a huge help for me because so much of what I do in my business runs on systems or organization, or this is just what you do on the days of the week and the time. And it was really beautiful because all of our systems are well. Our team knows all my systems. So even when I was driving up to the hospital, I was able to tell Lisa, my assistant coach, can you do my check-ins for me? The list is here. Can you get that done? And Stacy, our assistant, actually knows the procedures for if someone goes down, how to cover. And because the systems were in place, everyone kept moving. We actually signed a client while I was out. So it's the first person who I have not onboarded, and Stacy and the team did a phenomenal job. But it's a testament of when you put the right systems in place, whether it be your bariatric journey, your business, or your life, you can run because habits are going to handle the hard days or when you don't want to do the work. When people say, why do you work out 3 to 4 days a week? It's like, well, I have a system where like Saturday and Sunday are my heavier lifts because I have a little bit more time and I can sleep in and fuel a little bit better for it. And then Tuesday and Thursday got to be the non-negotiable lifts where I just got to get up. So by putting those habits in place, what we teach our clients, it really does show that you can accomplish whatever you need to accomplish. Number 3, surround yourself with good people and you can sleep easy. We had over 300 people between the house, the wake. We were surrounded by amazing people in my father's life, and it was a testament to him. But it's also true that your people carry you when you collapse. And when I look at everything, my team did such a phenomenal job of just keeping everything running in Busy Bariatrics where I could really step away. My clients respected the fact that Stacy reached out to everyone and said, like, look, Rob's going through it. He'll make an announcement. So my coaches carried Busy Bariatrics. My clients knew exactly how to get the work done. From the reports, it looks like more clients got their check-ins done the week I was gone than when they normally do, which is good. But then because I've surrounded myself with good people, both on the internet and in real life, I had friends at the door. I have had more flower bouquets than I know what to do with. People have shown up for me, and it's just a testament of how good my father was, how he opened his house to everyone, but also that like I try to do the same of treating everyone as well as I can. And like my father, I'm very direct and blunt, but it's because I love and care about people. So it brings us to like our 5th key point of what my dad really taught me was how you do one thing is how you do, and I'm like doing his little mannerisms, how you do everything. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. My dad lost it when any one of us did a half-assed job. It could be raking leaves or not living up to our potential. It didn't mean like you had to be perfect, but he had no excuse for putting in minimal effort. You could perform brain surgery at 100% speed and kill the patient and be like, look, he looked diligent and he tried hard. But he said, look, you show up and you give it your full effort on anything you do, or you don't commit to it. And that was the other part. He had no problem saying, like, I can't commit to that, because he really believed if it wasn't in his bandwidth or if he didn't like it to the point that he'd be good at it, he wouldn't say, be like, I'm just not doing that. And like the answer, I don't want to do it and I'm not good at it. So simple stuff like that of like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that could be like when you meal prep. Does that have to be perfect? No, but you got to put effort in of like, look, I'm trying a new recipe. It doesn't work. Okay, there's a new exercise. I'm going to watch the video and then try my best and send the video back to your coach to figure out how to do it. It gives you a better idea. When it goes to like who my dad was, if these stories help with anything, you need to understand, like, he was an entrepreneur. Like I said, he was a hustler. He worked 7 days a week at his own business, which was a lumber company. So it was very common. He would drive me to school in high school, and I had to be in by 8 o'clock. And be like, that's too late for me. So I'd get dropped off at like 7:15 and sit in the cafeteria. And he would work till after football practice, which was about 6:30 p.m. So he'd put in like a 10, 11-hour day Monday to Friday. Saturday, he would work what he called country club hours, which was like 8 to 6. And then he'd say he had a half day on Sundays because he'd work like from 10 to 3. But he always worked with that. And he was proud of the businesses that we had. He really was a mentor to me in the sense that he would always be asking me about like how many clients did I sign? What was my churn rate? How did my profit margins look? And he was like obsessed and kind of excited with Instagram and social media marketing. He would constantly say things like, so you mean to tell me you dance on like social media? And that's what he would call like dancing, or like you do your little skits on social media. And then people talk to you. And then you sign them up for coaching for that. And I'd be like, yeah. And he'd be like, and you don't have to pay like Instagram or Facebook. I'm like, some people do, but I'm just creating the content and putting it out there. He's like, you're getting free advertising. This is awesome. He loved hearing when I signed clients or how I would like just make payroll work by signing a couple extras. And whenever I talked about my startup days, he's like, look, this is going to tell you who you are as a person. The first year, he would constantly say, like, look, you're going to find out a lot more about yourself your first year owning a business than any other aspect of your life. And he was so right. But he also believed in me constantly. And it's just tough because I look at this now. My goal was to interview him for Father's Day. And probably not even this Father's Day, because he was only 67. And if you notice in the themes of the shows, like we've really tried, the first season was all like how we do our busy method. The second season was the importance of nutrition. Season 3 and 4 have really been this constant churn of like, here are other podcast hosts who I kind of owe to have on my show because I've been on their show. And then client examples of case studies of how we walk our clients through their success rate. And then the third ones have been these solo episodes where I try to teach something pertinent for the day. And when I looked at it, all of our content's really batched out for the entire year into July. And most of it's already recorded. So I figured like, well, I could do a Father's Day and Mother's Day episode way down the line because my mom and dad are only 67 and I assumed it was time. So another example of like, you don't know how much time you have, so just do it now. And in hindsight, I wish I recorded. It would have been good. But I think when the dust settles and my mom's better, I'm going to record one with her, maybe for Mother's Day, because she did play such a big role in my bariatric journey. And I think it'd be cool to have that. And that's kind of like one of these, like maybe this episode is hitting home for you or it's not resonating at all. And either way, I don't really care. Sometimes these episodes are just kind of for me and for my catharsis. But if you're listening to this, just remember, like, later really is a luxury. So stop planning or thinking you need to be perfect and overanalyzing it and just do it. So to go back, like, with coaching and everything else, I want to just tell you, like, stop saying you're going to start Monday or waiting till January. Just get out and do the thing. Messy action's going to take care of it and you're going to figure it out. You can't wait for a perfect time. My dad was kind of forced into going into the family business after he was finished his time in college and never looked back. Your second chance is not unlimited. So thinking you're going to get a do-over or you'll wait till you're retired or you'll wait till this, you just don't know, gang. Life is way too precious. And finally, show up for the life you fought for. My dad spent 50 years working in lumber mills or around hardware and building supplies, and he showed up every day. He will tell you he's not the best salesman. He's not the best manager. He is not the best retail expert, but he showed up as best as he could and he did an amazing job. And it's a testament for the fact that his business ran for like 35 years before he decided to close up shop. And then he went on to work for someone else with Lansing Building Products with my brother. He used to joke, like, he's like, nah, this is a vacation. They can only make me work 9 to 5. I only have to handle one small aspect of running a business. And he thought that was great. It's the reason why, like, he always loved hearing when I would hire other coaches who had already owned their business, because his answer for everyone is like, hey, anyone wants to comment about businesses or the economy, they should all own a business before they comment on what a business should do. And truer words were never spoken from Bob, and it's something I find myself repeating constantly when I'm talking to other coaches or business owners, is nobody gets it until we get it. So as you're going on this, just realize that, like, you don't have to have it all together. You just have to get everything. And that's really the assignment that I'm going to give you. My dad was always someone who said, I love you to anyone who he truly loved or liked. Because he's like, look, I don't know when I'm going to see him again, and I'm getting older. So the call to action is usually like tag this episode or share something. All I'm going to ask you to do is like just reach out to someone who you love and tell them you love them. Do the thing that you keep saying you're going to get to. Just go do it. Rip the Band-Aid off and get it, and realize like, no, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, take some messy action and just get it together, and choose to just be better tomorrow than you were today. And show up because your life depends on it, because one day it will. I don't have a regular tag, but I will give you one last Bobism to end this episode, and that is, look, if you want to do the work, you got to get up, and you just got to go do it. And that was his answer. Look, you got to get up, and you got to go do it. And if you get up and you go do it, chances are you'll get it done. And if not, you'll just do it again tomorrow until it's ready to go. And he'd say it in that voice. So hopefully this episode resonates with you. If it does, feel free to share. If it doesn't, you can keep that to yourself. Like, this is not the episode for feedback of the tone and incantation is off, the lighting seemed a little off, but it's a tribute to my dad, Pop, if you are listening to this, and I think he does, even though he never listened to the show. He couldn't figure out podcasts on his phone. He would just be like, look, do whatever you need to do for like the algorithm, is what he'd call it, which meant that I could go on his phone and I could hit subscribe and I could leave comments and messages. But then he'd be like, I have no idea how to get your stuff. He was amazed when there was the YouTube app on the television, and I showed him like, look, you can get me on that. And his exact answers were, he grabbed his hands, he put them on the side of the bed. He's like, well, that's enough, I'm going to bed. And that was the last time he ever saw any of my content. Was he saw my show streaming on YouTube on the TV in his living room, where he would sit and have his Manhattans at the end of the night. So kind of a cool thing. But either way, keep getting busy. Hope this episode finds you well, and just go love and hug someone, and know that you just got to do the dang thing. Keep getting busy, everyone.